Good day. Hello, Josh. So today we have Josh Lee or Josh Pilseon Lee with us. Josh, welcome.
Thank you.
Just maybe let's start by introducing, who you are, where you came from, where you born in Australia. Let's talk a little bit about your life. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, people that know me, my name's Joshua Lee. Korean name's Pilseon Lee. I'm 27 years old, currently working as an accountant. Offices in the city. I got married last year, have a baby on the way, so that's what I'm doing.
Congratulations
at the
in
moment.
advance.
Yeah.
Let's maybe track back to your original time when you first came to Australia. Can you take us back there and
Sure.
tell us a bit about like your reason why you came to Australia and
Sure.
how was life like,
When
you
I was
first
young.
started? Yeah.
So yeah,
And how old were you?
Yeah, well, I was born in South Korea. I lived in a city called Daejeon. It's like the very central of Korea. And when I was 6 years old, my mom and I and my father, we moved to Australia. And when I moved to Australia, my mom got married with my stepdad, who I'm living with now. And that's why I moved over. So I was very young when I moved to Australia. I was 6 years old. My life before, from 0 to 6, was pretty depressing. It was quite sad because, like I said, my mom went through a divorce when I was 5 years old. And I just have very bad traumatic memories, I guess, because I remember my mom used to get beat a lot, and I still remember when I was like 4 years old, 3 years old, my mom was getting beat and she was like hugging me and she let go of me. So I like fell down to the ground, and the room that my mom used to use, I remember it had like 2-3 locks because she wanted to protect herself from my father because of all the beating and all the abuse that she went through. The police often came to my place. The neighbors would report us to the police because they would hear all the screaming, all the clashing and all. So my life until I was 6 was very traumatic, and I would say very sad, depressing. Yeah.
So wow, that's quite a life, right, for a 5-year-old, 6-year-old. Would you say that you hardly smiled because you lived in such an insecure environment?
I think from my memory, I think I didn't really talk much, and I would have not smiled a lot. I don't have those memories of smiling. Like when I speak with my friends, they say, "Oh, when I was 5, we have a photo of our family, and they have a photo of their family in the wall at the house." I never had that stuff. Like my house was always dark. There was no light. All I remember is just crying with my mom. My mom used to cry. I would cry as well, and that's all the memories I have until now. And I don't actually even remember my father's face. So I don't have good memories, and I think I was very quiet from what my mom told me until I was 6. Didn't talk much, and I would often try to read a lot of like people's faces and worry about, oh, how is this person going to react? And I think that was the kid I was when I was 6.
So you were 5 years old, you were 6 years old at that time. Sounds like a very dark, scary, fearful environment where you grew up in.
Yeah.
At that time, would you say that because you use the word, you were traumatized. I think for you to go back to memory lane, do you harbor a lot of like anger and those kind of things? Did you used to have a lot of those because of how you grew up? And how did that affect you, your life into teenage years and so on?
Yeah, because I was traumatized because of the violence and the way my mom was being treated and the way my father would treat her. And seeing that, I just became someone that was very quiet, low self-esteem, didn't want to talk to a lot of people, and just didn't want to show. I think that changed me as I was a kid to just not talk with a lot of people, just stay by myself, stay with my mom. But it closed my heart to people, and I wouldn't really try to make friends. And I think that's how my personality kind of changed. I just became quiet, not talkative, very had low self-esteem. That's who I was. And when I flew to Australia when I was 6 years old, obviously my mom got married again with my stepdad, and we moved over. And I think when I was 6, when I went to primary school in Australia, it's Croydon Park Public School, I was a very quiet kid even until then.
And do you remember much about coming to Australia?
Just remember I was on the plane.
And did you know why you were coming to Australia? Were you told?
No, I was just told by my mom one day. This random man came, and my mom told me, he's your dad now. And I couldn't process that in my head. And by the time I knew, I was just inside an airplane and I was flying to Australia. I didn't even know where I was going. But what I do remember is I was in the plane and my mom asked me, oh, do you like your dad? Because I spent around 3-4 months with him before we flew to Australia. And apparently I said yes. That's the response I told my mom. I don't remember that I said that, but I said yes, I like him. And we flew together.
So how was it like growing up in Australia for you? I mean, that's the time when you start to, become more real, right? Because you're maturing.
I'm still a young kid, still very young. I'm 6 years old, but coming to Australia was obviously, everything was so new to me. I have a new dad, so I'm trying to process that in my head. And coming to Australia, different language, different culture, and different people. Everyone is from different backgrounds, and everything was super new to me, and it took time for me to adapt to the Australian culture and the Australian lifestyle.
Did you make a lot of friends?
Well, I came to Australia and my mum took me to church, and I used to go to church since I was young and meet friends there. I couldn't make a lot of friends, actually. I wasn't able to really make a lot of friends. I think I tried to make friends, but I was put aside for a while, and I couldn't make friends.
What do you mean by put aside, and why do you think that happened?
I think because the majority of the kids at church were born in Australia, so they were using English, they were speaking English, they had their own kind of connection. And me from somewhere from Korea, this random kid came, he doesn't speak English, he doesn't know our culture, our vibe, and it made it difficult for me to connect, I guess. So I remember that took some time.
And when did you start feeling that you could fit into life in Australia?
Well, as I went to primary school and as I started to learn English, as I started to go to church every week and see my friends more and more, I think it just became natural. We became friends. I made friends at school. And I think around after 2-3 years, I started to speak fluent English, and I made friends. But deep inside my heart, I was never really able to really fully open to anyone. I just make jokes around, just joke around, laugh time to time. But somewhere deep inside my heart, I always felt this emptiness and this sadness, and that really never went away.
Would you say it's because of the childhood you went through?
I would say that is why I would have felt that way. Because after my mom got divorced and after I told you that I had traumatic memories, after that happened, I had this one thought in my mind. This was my thought when I was 5 and 6, and that was, when I grow up, I'm going to find my real father and get my revenge. That was actually the thought that was inside me for such a long time. And I said, I'm going to get my revenge. And I being honest, I wanted to really kill him. Why did he treat my mom that way? That was one thing. And the second thought I always had with me was, I'm such a sad kid. I'm a very depressed kid, and I have gone through so many despairs, and that kind of made me have complaints against the world. And obviously, like I said, I had friends at primary school, etc. But kids would make fun of me as well. They would say, "Oh, you're not Australian." They'd make racial comments and show racism to me. And they would even say, "Oh, your dad is not even your real dad. What's your last name? Is it really Lee? Is it Yu?" Which was my previous last name. And I went through that bullying stage as well because of my race and my background and my family issues. So I always had that two thoughts with me. I said, when I grow up, I'm going to get my revenge on him. And that one other thought is, I'm just a very sad kid, despair, doesn't have a proper family, can't adapt to Australia. And that was the two thoughts that I carried with me for a very long time.
Wow, sounds really tough, right? That kind of childhood. How did you deal with it?
I didn't know how I should deal with this feeling or emotion. I could never talk about these thoughts with my parents, with my mom or dad, or friends, and I just carried it with me the whole time. And because I did that, when I went to high school, I think that's when my personality changed. And at high school, I was in year 7, year 8, and there'd be year 11, year 10, year 12, older people than me, that would bully. And I've seen a lot of abuse in high school, a lot of fights in high school. And when I was in year 7 and year 8, that's when I told myself, I'm not going to put up with this stuff anymore. If someone says something that would offend me, if someone talks about my family, my parents, then I have to react. And that way, I think I became a very dark person in high school, year 7, year 8. And I would always hide it from my mum because I didn't want to disappoint her, because I know how much suffering and how much of a trouble, difficulty she went through. So I'd always try to hide it from my parents, but at school I was really not a good boy. And I had anger issues. And a lot of friends in high school, they know me, they know that I had anger issues. So I became violent when I was in high school. I would just throw things at people. I would get in fights with people at school. And I became a troublemaker just without realizing that I was a troublemaker.
Wow. So what changed? How did you change?
So
did you change after that? Did you get out of this anger,
I think it
violence?
became worse and worse, right? It became worse and worse. It would start from small fights in high school, not listening to teachers, not going to school. And I never really studied during high school as well. But it became severe, I think, around year 12 and after high school. That's when I was, meeting friends that were doing the wrong thing. They would always drink, smoke, and a lot of my friends used to do drugs. So I would meet with these friends and try to socialize with them because some of them actually have a similar past with me. They also had their difficulties, their childhood trauma, and I could relate with these people. And I was saying, I can become real friends with them. So at that time, it became really, really bad to the point where I didn't know what to do with my life. I knew if I continue to live like this, my mom always used to say, if you keep living like this, you're going to end up in prison, you're going to end up dead or in the hospital.
How old were you, Josh?
I think I was around 19 years old, 20 years old when this happened. And I didn't know what to do with my life back then. And I had to really make a decision as to am I going to live like this, or am I going to change?
And so you said that you used to go to church, right?
Yeah.
So all this time when you're going through the darkness, did church help at all?
Did church help?
Or at what point did it help, if it did?
I mean, church helped in the sense that it helped me limit, like I could have been really, really bad. But I think it slowed that process. Like whenever I go to church and I speak with my teachers, my mentors, the pastors in church, or friends at church, I would see them, and after I talk to them, I would say, okay, like I shouldn't live like this anymore. And I'll talk to my mentors, and I would feel like, yeah, I have to change. But that change never happened at the end, because I was telling myself, well, they don't know about me. They don't know what I've been through when I was young. They don't know the real adversity and struggles that I've gone through. And I think that made me like continue. Like when I'm at church, I would be like, oh yeah, I shouldn't live like this. I should, God will change me. But as soon as I step out of church and meet my friends, I'd go back to the old habits and continue to be that way. But there was a point where my life changed, which was when the pastor, he asked me, hey Josh, like why don't you go to Korea? There's a world camp in Korea, and it's held by International Youth Fellowship and the Good News Mission. And I went to Korea, and that time I went there telling myself, because pastor told me, if you go to Korea, if you attend this world camp, you will change. So I said, let's see if I can change, because I did try. I tried to be a good person, and I tried to change, but it never really happened. So I was thinking, if I can't do it, and pastor's telling me that I'll change, so let's go. And that's why I went to Korea. I think that's in the year around 2019, in the year 2019.
So what happened in Korea?
So
you went, right?
I went to Korea, and I attended the World Camp, and there was a lot of performances. There was a lot of, there was a group, I was in group A, and there was a lot of people from America and different countries, and we did Bible studies. We hear mind lectures, and we would spend time together. And at that point, nothing really came into me. But in Korea, I met Pastor Oksu Park, who's the founder of Good News Mission. And he introduced me to his junior pastor called Pastor Youngju Park. And that's how I met him. And he asked me about my life story. I told him about my life story. I said, look, I want to change, but I can't change. And like that, I actually lived with him for 6 months. And actually, that's the time when my life started to really turn around and start to change.
So when you started living with Pastor Youngju Park, talk us through about what happened, or was there a certain event, or was there some teaching that was imparted to you that helped you to change? I mean, was it instant, or was it progressive over time?
I think it was progressive over time.
Tell us a bit more about that.
When I first met Pastor Youngju Park, I was like, who is this person? I don't know who he is. But what was different was when I was in Australia, right? When I was dark, when I was a real troublemaker here, everyone was calling me a troublemaker. Everyone was saying, oh, Josh has anger issues. He can never take, jokes about his parents. Everyone would say that I am a real troublemaker. They would say the same thing to my parents. And when people started to say that to me as well, I was saying, okay, I'm a troublemaker, so I'll act like one. What's the problem? But with Pastor Youngju Park, when he saw me and I told him about what I've done, how I live my life, he told me that I don't see you as a troublemaker. So he never saw me as a troublemaker, although I caused a lot of troubles. So like when I first went to Korea, like I never listened to him. He would say, oh, come to have lunch. I wouldn't go. Like, I don't want to listen to you. Who are you? And I would cause a lot of troubles because I would like take the kids that were in the neighborhood. I would just take them out during service. I don't attend the services at church. And I would cause a lot of troubles. one incident was, I remember that I drank alcohol and I came to church. And for some weird reason, he was just waiting for me and he saw me. And I was like, here we go, same thing, I'm gonna get in trouble, blah, blah, blah. And I went and confronted him. And when he saw me, he was just very normal. He was saying, you know, where you coming from? You know, what did you do today? How was your day? And I just said, my day wasn't good. Like, I don't want to live here anymore. Like, I don't want to stay in Korea with you anymore because I'm not changing and I want to just go back to Australia. And that time, because he was very close to me and he would have smelt the alcohol from me, and he didn't say anything. He just gave me a hug. He just hugged me at that moment. And he said, hey Josh, you know I really like you, right? And I really want you to stay with me. That's when I was like, this is weird. Like, I think he believes what he says, which is he doesn't think of me as a troublemaker. Everyone else was calling me a troublemaker but him. That's when my heart started to slowly open to him. And that's when I had the heart, I want to listen to him. I want to learn from him. Like, I want to know where he's getting that mentality from. Like, where is he getting this, the way he treats me? How does he think I'm not a troublemaker, although I do this stuff? So he treated me differently and he believed that I wasn't a troublemaker. And that was because of the word in the Bible where he says that that I have been perfected by the blood of Jesus. And that's why he told me, because of this verse, I know that you're perfect, because Jesus died for you on the cross, and so you're a perfect person. Whether you drink or not, whether you do this or that, it doesn't matter. That's the word and that's the truth. And seeing him really believe the word influenced me. And then another challenge arose. Do I believe him? Or do I believe the Bible, or do I not believe the Bible? Like, am I really perfect or not? That was the challenge I had. During that stage, he asked me to go to America as an overseas volunteer, and I applied for the program. And I went to the US and lived there for a year as a volunteer program. And like I told you, like, the challenge was, what is the truth, right? When I look at myself, I'm a troublemaker, sure. I never studied at school. People called me troublemakers. I did this, that, smoking, drinking. So when I look at myself, yes, I'm a troublemaker, but the Bible says that I'm not a troublemaker. I'm a perfect man. Not because I'm a good person, but because of Jesus. So throughout that whole year, while I was there, I had to pick and choose what I'm going to believe in. And obviously, when I was in America as well, there was a lot of challenges. I lived in a town, like a suburb called Harlem. A lot of people might know. And I remember at night I heard gunshots and stuff. So it was a very rough area, and there would be people selling drugs in the street. So when I was living there for a year, I just constantly, had troubles. Like, I had fights there. I had fights in America as well. And whenever I cause trouble, I look at myself, see, it's Josh, never going to change, same guy. And then when I spoke with my mentors in America, whenever I had troubles, they treated me the same way as Pastor Youngju Park. They said, you're a perfect man. And I believe this because that's what the Bible says, right? And at the end of that 1 year, I received the grace to be able to believe that, yes, I've done this, which was wrong. I've committed sin, but because of the word, I'm perfect. And because of Jesus, I'm perfect. And when I started to believe in this word, that's when my life changed. And that's how the darkness I had with me since I was 6, right? Like, I need to get revenge on my father. And, I'm the most sad, kid, like a guy that's depressed all the time, in despair, miserable, right? The word is miserable. I was always telling myself, I'm the most miserable person in the world and no one is going to understand how I feel. Those thoughts that I had since I was 6 and I carried until 2020, it vanished. And I said, I've become a perfect man because of Jesus. And I was able to believe that. And I think that's when those dark thoughts went away and I started to really read the Bible, listen to my mentors, and speak with pastors.
Wow. So it is really about the word, right? Looking at the word, which says that you're already perfect, and not looking at yourself and your circumstances. I think that was the biggest learning that you got from Pastor Youngju Park.
That's correct.
In your time in the US. So after finishing the overseas volunteer program in the US, you've obviously come back to Australia.
Yeah.
How has life been like for you since then? And does that word still lead your heart? How do you live these days?
So after that 1 year, I came back to Australia. I went back to university and I started to study. And I think my life changed completely after that 1 year, after 2020. And I was able to come to church with a happy heart. When I was young, Mum would just hold my hand. I go to church. It's just a pattern.
Yeah.
But from then, I was going to church and really listening to what the pastors tell me, and try to really see what the Word of God is saying. So I was really focused on that. My life changed because now I'm not thinking about getting revenge and like being strong and having to like react quickly to people when I show them that, you know, I'm not someone you can mess with. I'm not focused on that anymore. I'm focused on knowing what's the truth and trying to dig deeper and trying to see, you know, okay, you know, what am I going to do now? Like, how am I going to live my life? How should I live now? So I went to university and I started studying the accounting degree. I graduated in 3 years, and I found a job. And you know what's really surprising? After 2020, the biggest change for me is actually I've discovered that I am a happy person. So when I was able to be free from that thought saying I'm a miserable person and say, you know, I'm not miserable anymore because I'm a perfect man because of Jesus, now I'm saying I'm actually a very blessed person, because now at that point I was able to see things that I couldn't see when I was in high school. I was looking at my stepfather and I really just call him my father, right? He's taken care of me since I was 6 years old. And I have a younger brother, and he's never treated me and my younger brother differently. And he's actually treated me more better than my younger brother, right? And just thinking that, hey, I had a father with me, right? And yes, he may not be my biological father, but a father that took care of me with all his heart since I was 6 years old. And I was thinking to myself, hey, like, how happy and blessed can I be? So those things I started to see. Oh, I had my father, I had my mother. You know, even until now, they're both healthy. I have a younger brother. You know, I have an accounting degree. I never thought about having a degree at university, right? I never thought about having like a normal job. But now I've graduated university. God gave me a job. God gave me the most beautiful wife in the world that I could get. I got married last year. Just thinking of these things, I'm starting to see things that I couldn't. And I realized that there were so many parts of my life, even during high school, where I could have said, hey, I'm actually not a miserable person. I'm a happy person, right? But it was after 2020 when I could really see these things and feel really happy in the heart. So I think that was the biggest change. Those dark thoughts and all those miserable thoughts went away. I was able to see that I was very blessed since I moved to Australia. Maybe before, when I was in Korea and 6 and before, I was quite, you know, miserable. But after, I was a very happy person.
From darkness to light, right? It's a very thankful testimony. Last question, Josh. If you were able to go back in time and you were able to see your 5-year-old self, what would you tell him now?
If I was able to go back, I think I would tell him that although you think you're the most miserable person in this world, you're not. And you you are being loved by your mother and your father, and that just want to tell him, don't be so dragged in by your thoughts that you're a miserable person and that you'll never be happy again, because you will be, because you will be. And I think because of when I was 6, because of those thoughts, it's the thought, right? I think at that point I didn't care about the fact or the truth. It's just I believed in my own thoughts, and although I was a happy person and I had all the conditions to be happy, I ignored them. So I would tell him, don't be so focused on your own thoughts. You know, look around you. You know, and speak more with your parents, with your father. You know, who took you to Australia. That's what I would tell him.
Thank you very much, Josh. That was really great. Great testimony. And I'm so thankful to hear, and congratulations, because you're going to be a father soon too.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for this opportunity to share.